Hello, I'm Paul Gullixson, Associate Vice President of Strategic Communications at Sonoma State University. And I'm here today with Dr. Judy Sakaki, President of Sonoma State, who is one of the women recognized in an exhibit at the Museum of Sonoma County called From Suffrage to MeToo, Groundbreaking Women in Sonoma County. And as part of this occasion, the museum has asked us to pose some questions to President Sakaki for posterity and to include as part of this exhibit. So, Dr. Sakaki, it's great to have you here. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So the first one is, as an Asian American woman, did you face any challenges in your professional career based on your race and or gender?
Yes, unfortunately. I think every step, if I look back on major appointments that I've taken in my career, I've had some incident of a gender-biased or racist comment that's been made to me, unfortunately. For example, even in some of my interviews, I've been asked or told, well, I'm not sure if your style is exactly right, or have you ever fired anyone? And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, if I were 6 feet tall and male, would they really ask me that question? And so those are, there's still challenges. Some are implicit bias and some are more explicit, where, I don't know, one that really sticks in my mind is when I was appointed to a senior level cabinet position, I met with one of my direct reports. And in that first meeting, he sat down in my office and said, I can't believe that they actually hired you. I cannot believe it. And that I'm going to have to report to you. And I said, so we have some concerns. We have some difficulties. And he said, yes, I can't believe they hired someone younger than me, a woman, and an Oriental, end quote. And then he sat there and just stared at me, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be a challenging working relationship. So yes, we still have some work to do. You know, I mentioned for every position that I've taken in the senior level, I've had some incident that has been hard. And I think coming in as president at Sonoma State has been no different. I faced a alum calling and leaving a voice message with a very distressing message, who said, no, and using a derogatory anti-Asian slur, said, no person from an internment camp will ever be my university president. Take me off your rosters and lists. And this was someone who had donated to the university before. I will never give another penny to Sonoma State. And those are really heartbreaking for me. And it just shows that we still have so much work to do, both in education, in terms of educating others, and in terms of helping each other learn more about our own histories and who we are.
That is heartbreaking. That's just hard to believe, particularly given that that was just 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So this leads to the next question. You've now made history as the first Asian American woman to lead a 4-year university in the United States. So the question is, on your path to this milestone, did you have ambitions to be such a trailblazer?
No, in fact, when I was appointed, I learned that I was the first Asian American woman appointed president at a 4-year university by a researcher who called me and said, congratulations, can I include you in a book that I'm writing? And I said, really? I am the first? And he said to me, and this is an old colleague, he said, are you questioning my research? And I said, no, I'm not questioning your research, but are you sure it's true? And it was interesting because the next time that I saw his lieutenant governor at the time, our now Governor Newsom, he said to me, "I heard that you're the first. Is that really true?" And I said, "Yes." And that's what I heard too. And he said to me, "Why has it taken so long? I can't believe that." And of course, that would take a long time to sort of go into, but yes, that's how I learned it. So no, I didn't aspire to trailblaze or to be this trailblazer. I would say I'm an accidental trailblazer, but I take the responsibility and I open those paths, and I hope that many others will follow. Many other women and women of color and others will say, "Gosh, if she can do it, maybe I can do it too."
I love it. Accidental Trailblazer. Sounds like the name of a good book. So as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you think your younger self would have been surprised by your career today?
I didn't, the world was so different. I think young girls and women have many more options. As I was growing up, and when I decided that I would go on to college, and that was kind of by accident too, I thought of two career choices that were acceptable at that time. One was a preschool teacher, and the other is a nurse. And I immediately eliminated nurse because my experience of nurse was, oh, that's a person that gives people shots and hurts people. And I don't want to do that, or has to draw blood. And so I, by default, picked preschool teacher. I didn't really have any role models. And if you see the exhibit, you'll see that in there is one of my dolls. And my dolls had blonde hair. And what was interesting is that now that I reflect on it, I didn't think of it then as growing up, but my mother always sewed a Japanese kimono for each of my dolls. So while they may have had blonde hair, they always had a piece of Japanese clothing to wear as I was playing with them. And now I think how things have changed. At the time, I pretended that Betty Rubble of the Flintstones, that Veronica and the Archies, and that Snow White were actually Asian American, because those were the only characters I saw that had black hair like me. Now I'm so pleased that my 8-year-old granddaughter has dolls that kind of look like her. She has a Mulan doll. She has an American Girl doll that actually looks like her. So we come a little ways in that. But yes, my younger self would be totally surprised and would have never thought that I would have become a university president.
I'm wondering if you also might want to talk about, I know you had an experience long ago before you went on to get your graduate degree and PhD, about an experience when you were working at a department store. Could you tell us about that?
When I was in high school, my high school counselor said that I would be very good in retail sales. And I never questioned it. She didn't think I needed to take any college preparatory courses. She thought that I should go to work immediately after high school. And so I dutifully, went. I thought she was doing me a favor by letting me get out of school early to go to work. I worked at, my first job was at a place called Newberry's. It was a 5 and 10 dime store in downtown Oakland on Broadway. And as I was working there, I was sweeping up popcorn, lining up shelves, making sure all the boxes were straight. And one evening, I looked around and noticed all these women who were helping me. And I noticed that all of them were older women of color. And I thought to myself, as a 16-year-old, I don't know if I could do this job for the rest of my life. I don't know if I can do it when I'm 60, 50. And that's when I was very fortunate to bump into a outreach counselor at my high school who opened my eyes to thinking about going to college. So that's where some of my passion comes for helping other students reach to university education, because it just opens doors and it opens your eyes to things that you didn't know existed.
It's a very powerful moment. So while the current exhibit at the museum celebrates the progress made over the last 100 years, it celebrates the 100th anniversary of suffrage and so much more. We have seen from the more recently, the MeToo movement and the Black Lives movements, that, as you mentioned, there is still work to be done. What are your thoughts about the progress to be made, and what hopes do you have for our local community and nation at large?
You know, if you reflect on the 100 years, we have made progress. I mean, I think about opportunities for women that we have now, but we still have a long ways to go. And the same is true for African Americans, Blacks, other folks of color. We have made progress. I think back, my grandparents could not own property. And so things have changed and improved, but the playing field is not level yet. We still have, in many states, women not having the ability to make their own choices about their reproductive health and decisions. We have different opportunities for women's pay, and still in many fields is less than men. And for African Americans, for Blacks, you know, the racism, the persistent violence, the discrimination, well, you see that in the COVID-19 results, that things are not equal yet, and we still have so much work to do. And it pains my heart. It makes me angry that still, it's almost 60 years since Martin Luther King's March on Washington and his wonderful "I Have a Dream" speech, that we want to judge people not by the color of their skin, but their content of their character. And 60 years later, we're still facing this. And that's why it's more urgent than ever. It's one thing to be educated and to learn our histories, which is why I love the History Museum and anything we can do to learn about each other, and why this exhibit, walking through the exhibit and really understanding what women and folks have done and gone through. But then it's the next step, which is to action that we must take. We have to really listen. We haven't always listened to all the voices in our community. We haven't taken the time. We may socialize more with our family or with people who are more like us. And we have to really be deliberate in inviting people when we can and it's safe to sit at our table and really listen across our differences. I say that we have to have those difficult dialogues. We have to talk about things that maybe will make some of us uncomfortable, but it's only then that we will get to the next step of action to make the systemic changes in our society that are not only fair and just, but that are needed. And that what we are experiencing now, there are some things that are just plain wrong. And yet with all of this, I still remain hopeful. I know that we can, if we come together. And we're doing this on campus. We've started conversations that we're calling, brave spaces, because it's going to take us. It's not always easy to confront. It's not easy to talk about. I haven't really spoken publicly about, how I felt when that alum called and left this hateful message for me. I haven't spoken about that because it is so painful. And yet, and many will say, oh, I can't believe that could actually happen in this day and age. And yet it does. It doesn't matter if I have a PhD after my name or if I hold this position. Ultimately, I am judged. I almost am judged at a higher level, a harder bar to leap over than if I weren't Japanese American, and a woman. And I think those things, that's why we're seeing this passion and this demonstration to say now, enough is enough. And I think you saw that in the MeToo movement, and you're seeing that in the Black Lives Matter movement, but it's going to take more than women. It's going to take more than folks of color, Blacks. It's going to take all of us to come together. White men, white women, Asian American men, Asian American women, Latinx, Native American peoples, across all areas. We're going to have to really commit ourselves to making a difference, to listening, not just listening passively, but actively listening and really hearing what people are feeling and thinking, and then we need to act. I have, as sad and as difficult and as angry about where we are in our society right now, I still remain very hopeful. I believe that those of us here in Sonoma County, those of us in California, that we have the ability and across our nation to make our world better, our communities and our world better. And I have every confidence that all of us together will be able to lift as we keep moving.
Yeah. On that note, as president of a four-year university, do you feel added pressure or responsibility to represent women or the Asian American community? Pressures that other leaders in your position may not have to deal with, and if so, how have those pressures influenced or impacted your decision making?
You know, I feel that responsibility. It's who I am, right? I can't say, oh, being a woman, I'm going to set that over here, or being a Japanese American or Asian American, I'm going to set that over here. All of our experiences, how we've been raised, who we are, our values, our education, that makes us who we are. We can't pull those apart. We're aware of it. And so I do take very seriously being a positive role model for young girls, students, women, young professionals. I still mentor and allow many to shadow me. I think it's a responsibility each one of us has to take. I was fortunate to have some role models and mentors, many, who didn't look anything like me, were male, but who took an interest and care to help me see things that I was not aware of, to help me learn and to see opportunities that I did not know existed. And with this responsibility of being this role model, it is heavy and it is weighs on you all the time. And I think that's why I feel this weight now, and I look at my African American Black colleagues on our campus or in the community or friends, and I just feel that in this moment in time, that it is extremely weighing, while they are also really important role models. They're dealing with their own emotions and their own who they are as people, which is a lot.
Yeah.
There aren't enough hours in the day, and that's why I think for many of us who are in these, have multiple identities and fulfill the space of being a role model, we have to pick and choose. You know, if I said yes to everything I would want to say yes to, whether it's being interviewed, whether it's being a subject for someone's dissertation study, whether it's just meeting with groups of people or speaking before different audiences, there are not enough hours in the day, and it would exhaust me, and I probably wouldn't be able to do as good a job in my regular work. And so it's being sensitive and being aware of all that it takes to hold the responsibility of being a positive role model.
Well, speaking as your public information officer, I can attest to, I'm amazed how many people you do say yes to. I don't know how many opportunities you pass up, but you impress me endlessly. So for the record, who are women that you find inspirational?
You know, I reach back and my grandmother, my Bachan, was she's continues to be one of my incredible inspirational role models. Here was this young immigrant who came from Japan by accident, actually. Her older sister was supposed to get on a boat and be a picture bride and marry my grandfather. And as my grandmother told me, she was at the boat dock and her older sister got scared and said, "You go." And she was so dutiful, was her older sister, that she had her suitcase. And so a suitcase filled with not even her own clothes, going to a land she knew nothing of. She couldn't speak the language. She didn't have the right clothes. She got on that boat, and I imagine what she was thinking on that long boat ride to America. And she got off that boat with just a picture. She was 17 years old, clutching a picture of the man she was to marry, my grandfather. And she never complained. She had what I would call quiet strength. And she married, had 5 children. She was sent to an internment camp. And yet she was always grateful and always optimistic and hopeful. And she helped me through when I lost everything in the fire. I thought, my goodness, my grandmother lost everything twice. Once when she came over to this country, she had a suitcase filled with her older sister's clothes. Then when she went to the internment camp, she lost everything, their house, their business, their dry cleaning business, everything again. And yet she would, when I asked her about it, she would be grateful for the food that she was given in the internment camps. It wasn't Japanese food like she would have wanted to eat, but yet she was grateful. And so for me, when I think of the hardships that I face, I go back to my grandmother, my Bachan, and I say, my goodness, if she could survive that and be hopeful and optimistic, then I don't have anything to complain about. I also am inspired by people like Dolores Huerta and Nancy Pelosi and Janet Napolitano and Michelle Obama. Strong women role models who have made a difference in our communities and in this world. I also think about first-gen women students. I think about single moms. I think about the women who are helping support their families back home in other countries and are working hard. I think of trans women. I think of, women of color who have faced against a lot of challenges and discrimination and racist action. They carry on every single day. Women who stand up, women who are not bystanders, women who look out for each other and speak up. All of you, all of these women are my inspiration.
Well, we appreciate you sharing all these thoughts and stories. This has been wonderful. So we come down to one last question. What is one piece of career advice you would most like to share with women who are students in college, Sonoma State or any other university today?
Just hold on to your passion, hold on to your dreams. Don't let anything stand in the way. Persevere. If you hit a bump in the road, just pick yourself up and keep going. Don't let any momentary sort of difficulty, be it needing to shelter in place or a insensitive, ignorant comment, don't let that stop you. Know that there are many, many people who support you, who want to mentor you and work with you. And there has been someone who has gone down this path and trailblazed so that your path would be a little easier. So just keep on going. Don't lose confidence in yourself. Listen to the advice of others, because oftentimes people will give you advice and believe in you more than you even believe in yourself. And so that's important to listen. Someone said to me that sometimes we're our worst enemies because we don't have the confidence. Maybe we're just growing and still learning. And someone once said to me, don't belittle yourself. Don't put yourself down. Be big yourself. Really have confidence and go forth. And so as you go forth, I always say there are so many younger sisters, young girls, young women, others in our community to reach back and lift them as you climb. We will do this. We can do this all if we support each other and do it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sakaki. Thank you for sharing these important words and great wisdom. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.